Hello, and welcome to Control City Freak. This is the YouTube channel where we talk about interstate highways and where they are signed to go to. Today we are looking at the most South Carolina of interstates, I26, Interstate 26. We see I26 here. A little strange that I26 is an even digit numbered road because it does go almost really more north-south than it does east-west. Although to be fair, that's not really I26's fault. We see up in the northern parts, this is all new. And the South Carolina portion is the original portion, and it's a bit more diagonal there. Plus, there's simply no odd digit numbers that would fit in the grid in this area. So what are you going to do? All right, we are going to start by looking at, well, not actually northbound I-26, but we are looking at westbound I-26, although it actually goes more north. So here is the start of I-26 in Charleston, South Carolina. We see 26 is signed for North Charleston and Columbia. North Charleston being a suburb, but I think it's like the third biggest city in South Carolina, so it does make sense for it to be signed here in Charleston. And we still see it is still North Charleston, Columbia. I am glad that they do include Columbia there, not just North Charleston. And before long, of course, we do get to 26 Columbia straight up. We see here Holly Hill, Columbia. No big surprise. Well done. And once we reach I-77 in Columbia, we haven't actually made it into central Columbia yet, but we are now signed for 26 West Spartanburg. Here close to the junction with I-20, we see 26 gets its own three-digit interstate. It did in Charleston as well, 526, and then we also get 126 in Columbia. So I don't know of any other interstates that are this short that have two of their own three-digit interstates. Here is the junction with I-20, and we still see 26 Spartanburg, Chapin, not sure, Chapin 7, Spartanburg 76. At the split with 385 is going to Greenville, 26 to Spartanburg. Here at 29, we get downtown Spartanburg, and 26 does not get a control city at all. We just get a straight up regular 26 here. At the junction with I-25, we see that 26 is signed West Asheville, although Asheville is almost due north of here. This is reflected on the mileage signs, as we have here Campobello. I really don't know how to pronounce that. Campobello 12 and Asheville 59. Nearing Asheville, things get a little bit more interesting so far as 26. It's been pretty straight ahead so far. But out here on the outskirts of Asheville, we get signed for downtown Asheville and Johnson City at the junction with 240 and 40. And 26 is still signed for Asheville here at the split with 19 and 23. However, when 26 splits off of 240, it is now signed as Future 26. For the rest of North Carolina, it's still Future 26 and not actually I-26. For reasons I'm not sure, I think it's just not up to interstate standard yet for the rest of North Carolina. And here, this is the North Carolina we know and love, Control City-wise. This is our first visit to North Carolina on Control City Freak, but North Carolina loves to sign very small places, so we get Weaverville as our sign, even though we got Johnson City earlier on when we met 40. And we see Johnson City is still really the primary control city. This also shows that Irwin 25, Johnson City 40. Within Johnson City, 26 is now signed North Kingsport, which is really the last major or, medium-sized place that 26 passes through. So sensible control city here. And we still see more 26 West Kingsport, 23 North Kingsport. I believe this is at the junction with I-81. And here we have 26 ending and US 23 taking over. So we end I-26. Nice of Tennessee to give us this good end sign. So now we will go to eastbound I-26, which of course is really more southbound. We start with 26 East Johnson City, and a nice Begin 26 sign to match the end 26. It ended at Highway 137, I guess, not at US 23. Here's the intersection with I-81, and we get East Asheville and Johnson City. I like the dual control city here. I like putting Asheville on there instead of just Johnson City. Johnson City, Kingsport, Bristol, they're really sort of all the same metro area. So nice of them to both put Johnson City, which is the immediate in-state major city coming up, and the next sort of major city in a different metro area coming up in North Carolina with Asheville. And once we are in Johnson City, we get 26 East Asheville straight up. Here, 26 is not signed at all because this is still the future 26 part, I guess. So they, at least as of this Google Street View, they had not gotten around to it yet. So it is right now West Asheville only on 240, not on 26, but 26, I assure you 26 is there. As we see on this, West 240, East 26, 240. And here's North Carolina showing itself again. East 26, Hendersonville, Spartanburg. Why Hendersonville is on this sign instead of it just being Spartanburg, and for that matter, why is 40 West Canton and Knoxville instead of just Knoxville? Well, that's North Carolina being North Carolina there. This, on the other hand, this dual control, I have no trouble with whatsoever. Spartanburg, Greenville, this is a good dual control. That's like having, Dallas, Fort Worth as a control for this part of the country. Spartanburg and Greenville are both kind of the same metro area. And in this case, it's especially good because 26 goes to Spartanburg and US 25 goes to Greenville. We see that split right here with 26 East Spartanburg and 25 South Greenville. Here on I-85, we now get 26 East Columbia. There's not any pull-throughs on 26 itself for some reason. And here we meet I-20 again, and we get 26 signed for the airport and Charleston. I assume they mean the Columbia Airport. This is a little weird. We get I-126 signed in letters written out instead of getting the Trailblazer shield up on that sign. I'm guessing it must have been a different name for something before and they didn't have room for the Trailblazer, so they just wrote it that way. So that goes to downtown Columbia. 26 goes to Charleston. And we see at the junction with I-77, at this point we would have passed the Columbia Airport, so 26 is only signed for Charleston. I'm glad that they're not signing North Charleston here. North Charleston is a fairly big city by South Carolina standards, but Charleston itself, of course, is much more famous, one of the most famous cities in the American South, very popular tourist destination. So it makes sense to bypass North Charleston and just sign 26 for Charleston in Columbia. Here we get a nice N26 1 mile once we are in Charleston. You don't see these too often, end in 1 mile, but we don't actually get an N26 sign. 26 instead just ends at US 17, where you have the choice between going south to Savannah or north to Mount Pleasant or Georgetown. And that will finish up I-26. Thank you so much for watching Control City Freak. I appreciate it. My name is Todd. Please like, subscribe, tell your road geek friends. Appreciate all the views. Thanks a lot and keep on trucking.